Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. John's first day at Galactic Trade Corporation on planet Zelpher was both exciting and daunting. The towering skyscrapers, shimmering with metallic hues against the alien sky, were unlike anything he had seen on Earth. The company was a hub for interstellar trade, drawing beings from across the galaxy, making it a melting pot of cultures and species. As John stepped into the main office, he was greeted by a flurry of different languages and the hum of alien technology. His supervisor, Tvani, a slender figure with iridescent skin and delicate, wing-like appendages, approached him with a swift, graceful motion. "John, I presume?" Tvani's voice was melodic, yet carried an assertive tone. "I'm Tvani, your supervisor. Let's get you started with a quick tour. Follow me, please." John nodded, trying to match her brisk pace as they weaved through the bustling office. "I've read a lot about the corporation's initiatives. It's truly impressive what's being accomplished here," he said, trying to make conversation. Tvani glanced at him, a brief smile flashing across her face. "Yes, the work is fulfilling, but it's also demanding. You'll need to keep up with the pace and adapt quickly to our ways." As they continued the tour, Tvani introduced John to various team members. Each alien species was more intriguing than the last, from the reptilian Shreks to the cloud-like Nebulans. However, John noticed that Tvani seemed increasingly distracted, her eyes darting around nervously, and her usual calm demeanor replaced by a subtle tension. "You seem a bit on edge," John observed as they momentarily stepped away from the crowd into a quieter corridor. "Is everything okay?" Tvani hesitated, her gaze fixed on the transparent floor revealing the cityscape below. It's just a personal matter. Don't worry about it. What you need to focus on is understanding our operational protocols." John sensed the discomfort in her voice, but decided not to press further. "Understood," he replied, as they returned to the throng of the office. They stopped by another desk where a tall, robust figure with a dark exoskeleton looked up from his workstation. "This is Kriv. He's one of our top logistics analysts." "Kriv, this is John, the new recruit." Kriv extended a hand, his grasp firm and friendly. "Welcome, John. If you have questions about our distribution networks, I'm your guy." "Thanks, Kriv. I'm looking forward to learning from everyone," John said, appreciating the warm reception. As the tour concluded, Tvani's demeanor seemed to fluctuate even more, her movements becoming increasingly agitated. Finally, back at her office, she turned to John with an apologetic look. "I must apologize if I seem a bit off today," she confessed quietly. "I'm currently going through a challenging time due to biological reasons. It's temporary but quite disruptive." John nodded, understanding the delicacy of the situation. "I appreciate you telling me. If there's anything I can do to assist during your challenging time, please let me know." Tvani smiled, this time more genuinely. "Thank you, John. I might just take you up on that offer. For now, though, let's focus on getting you settled in. Your first assignment will be to review our trade agreements with the Earth sector. Kriv will help you get up to speed." As John left Tvani's office and headed to his new desk, he couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and concern. He was now part of a new world, one that seemed as complex and unpredictable as his enigmatic boss. It was late evening at the Galactic Trade Corporation, and the office had mostly emptied. John had decided to stay late, keen on getting a head start on understanding the Earth sector trade agreements. The only other person in the vicinity was Tvani, who seemed immersed in her work, her office light a lone beacon in the dimly lit area. John was poring over a complex document when he heard a faint sigh. Looking up, he saw Tvani standing in her office doorway, looking somewhat forlorn. "Working late," John called out, trying to sound casual. Tvani walked over, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Yes, it seems we both are. How are you finding the documentation?" "It's thorough," John chuckled, rubbing his eyes. I think I might need a few more nights like this to fully get a grip on it. Perhaps a break is in order. Care for some company, Tvani suggested, her tone lighter than earlier in the day. John welcomed the opportunity. Sure, I could use a fresh perspective and maybe a clearer explanation of some of these clauses. They sat down at a nearby communal table, spreading out the documents between them. As they discussed, John noticed Tvani seemed more relaxed, her earlier tension easing as she focused on teaching. You explained this really well, John complimented. Ever consider a career in education? Tvani laughed softly. I prefer the challenges here. But speaking of personal matters, I feel I owe you a better explanation about my behavior today. John nodded, signaling for her to continue. It's somewhat embarrassing, but transparency is valued here, Tvani began, pausing to choose her words carefully. I am currently experiencing what my species calls the mating period. It's a biological phase, intense and distracting. The pheromones can affect those around me, hence my erratic behavior. John's eyes widened slightly, processing the information. That sounds challenging. Is there anything we can do to make things more comfortable for you here at work? Tvani smiled appreciatively. Understanding and a bit of space usually help. It's temporary, fortunately, a few weeks at most. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Kriv, who had come back to retrieve a forgotten device. Noticing the open documents and the apparent workshop session in progress, he grinned. Looks like I walked into a late-night crash course. Mind if I join? These trade agreements always have new nuances popping up. Actually, Kriv, that would be great. Tvani responded warmly. John here is just getting to grips with the intricacies of our operations. Kriv pulled up a chair, and together, the three delved deeper into the documents. As they discussed, joked, and dissected complex legal language, John felt a sense of camaraderie building between them. Several hours passed, and their productive session was finally coming to an end. As they gathered up the papers, John turned to Tvani. Thanks for the crash course and the honesty. I think I'm beginning to understand more than just the trade laws around here. Tvani's expression softened. Thank you, John. It's refreshing to work with someone so open and understanding. I think you'll fit in here just fine. As they said their goodnights, John felt reassured about his place in the corporation. The challenges of working in an interstellar environment were daunting, but the opportunity to build understanding and connections across the stars was incredibly exciting. He was beginning to feel like part of a team, a vital component of the sprawling, cosmic entity that was the Galactic Trade Corporation. A couple of weeks had passed since John's late-night learning session with Tvani and Kriv, and the effects of Tvani's mating period were becoming increasingly noticeable around the office. The staff was restless. Productivity had dipped slightly, and there was a subtle but pervasive tension in the air. One morning, John arrived early to find several of his colleagues gathered around the coffee machine, discussing the situation in hushed tones. Among them was a human co-worker named Marcus, who seemed particularly affected by the atmosphere. Morning, John. Coffee, Marcus offered, pouring himself a steaming cup. Thanks, Marcus. Seems like I'm not the only one needing an extra boost today, John replied, accepting the cup. Marcus nodded, glancing around cautiously before leaning in. It's this whole mating period thing with Tvani. I know it's natural for her, but it's throwing some of us off. You've been spending time with her. Noticed anything that might help? John thought about it. She mentioned that understanding and space might help. Maybe we can adjust the office layout temporarily, create a bit more physical distance to help everyone focus. That might work, a third voice chimed in. They turned to see Lena, another human team member, joining the conversation. I read that some species use scent blockers or pheromone dampeners in these cases. Maybe we could look into that. I like that idea, John said. Let's propose it to Tvani. If anyone has access to those kinds of resources, she would. Together, John, Marcus, and Lena decided to approach Tvani with their ideas. They found her reviewing reports in her office, her door open as if inviting conversation. Tvani, do you have a moment? John asked as they all entered. Tvani looked up, her expression weary but welcoming. Of course, come in. What's on your minds? John took the lead. We've noticed the team feeling a bit uneasy because of the mating period effects. We were wondering if there might be some resources or strategies we could implement to ease the situation, like scent blockers or rearranging the office space. Tvani considered this for a moment, then sighed. I appreciate your proactivity. I've been so caught up in my own discomfort. I didn't consider the broader impact. Let's explore both options. Marcus, could you look into the availability of environmental controls? Marcus nodded, already pulling out his tablet to start researching on it. And Lena, would you help me draft a new floor plan? Perhaps we can create zones based on sensitivity to the pheromones, Tvani suggested. Absolutely, I'll get right on it, Lena responded, enthusiasm in her voice. As the team set to work, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was teamwork in action, addressing a unique challenge with creativity and mutual respect. Over the next few days, Marcus secured a small shipment of scent dampeners designed for multi-species workplaces. Lena reorganized the office layout, creating zones that allowed those more affected to work with additional space. The changes brought a noticeable shift in the office atmosphere. Productivity began to creep back up, and the general mood lightened considerably. Tvani, seeing the positive effects of their efforts, called a brief team meeting to express her gratitude. Thank you, everyone, for your understanding and hard work over these past few weeks, she announced, addressing the team. Your willingness to adapt and support not just me, but each other is truly what makes this team exceptional. As the meeting dispersed, John caught Tvani's eye. She nodded at him, a smile breaking through her earlier fatigue. It was a small gesture, but for John, it confirmed that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The challenges were significant, but so were the rewards of working together in this diverse and dynamic environment. The new office arrangements and scent dampeners had settled in, creating a harmonious work environment at Galactic Trade Corporation. One afternoon, Tvani approached John's desk with an unexpected invitation. John, I was wondering if you would accompany me to a local cafe after work today. I need to discuss some upcoming projects, and it might be nice to step out of the office for a change, Tvani suggested, her tone casual yet sincere. John was slightly surprised but pleased. Sure, that sounds great. A change of scenery could do us good. Later that day, they found themselves at a cozy Zelfarian cafe, its decor a blend of various cultural artifacts from around the galaxy. They chose a secluded table and ordered some drinks. As much as this is about work, I also wanted to thank you personally, Tvani began, stirring her drink slowly. Your initiative with the office changes made a significant difference. Not just for me, but for the entire team. John smiled, appreciating her gratitude. I'm glad I could help. It's been a learning curve, but I think it's made us all a bit more understanding of each other's needs. The conversation shifted to work, discussing logistics of their next big project, but gradually veered into more personal territory. So, how are you finding Zelfar compared to Earth? Tvani asked, genuinely curious. It's different but fascinating. The diversity here is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Every day feels like a new adventure, John replied, his enthusiasm evident. Tvani laughed. I can imagine. Even for me, having been here for years, Zelfar still surprises me. Their drinks arrived and the conversation deepened, each sharing stories of their homeworlds. Tvani talked about her planet's vast oceans and bright skies, while John described Earth's mountains and forests. It seems like both places have their own kind of beauty, John noted, finding common ground. Indeed, it's easy to feel disconnected from home when you're light years away. But it's moments like these, sharing stories, that make it easier, Tvani reflected. John nodded in agreement, feeling a connection forming beyond their professional relationship. It's funny, isn't it? How talking about home can make you feel closer, even when it's far away. Yes, it's a shared loneliness, I suppose. But it's comforting to know we're not alone in feeling it, Tvani said, her eyes meeting his with a warmth he hadn't seen before. As they continued talking, the evening slipped away into night. They discussed everything from favorite foods to music, discovering more about each other than they had anticipated. Finally, it was time to leave. As they walked back to the transport station together, John felt a sense of camaraderie and mutual respect that went beyond their work roles. "Thank you for this evening, Tvani. I didn't realize how much I needed a conversation like this," John admitted as they neared the station. Tvani smiled, her eyes reflecting the station's soft lights. "Thank you, John. It's been more refreshing than you know." They parted ways with a promise to have more such evenings, both understanding that while their worlds were vastly different, the bridges they built through conversation made those differences seem a little smaller. Back at his apartment, John reflected on the evening. He felt a sense of belonging and purpose that he hadn't felt since arriving on Zelfer. He was no longer just a visitor on this planet. He was becoming a part of its tapestry, woven together by threads of shared experiences and newfound friendships. Several days after their evening at the cafe, Tvani invited John over to her apartment under the guise of needing technical assistance with a new communications device. John, always eager to help, agreed without hesitation. Upon arriving, John was struck by the simplicity yet elegance of Tvani's home. Soft ambient lighting highlighted various pieces of art that seemed to blend both Zelfarian and universal influences. "Thanks for coming, John. I'm sorry for the trouble, but I couldn't think of anyone else who might understand this gadget," Tvani said, greeting him with a warm smile and leading him to a small device on her living room table. "No problem at all, Tvani. Let's take a look," John replied, examining the device. After a few minutes of tinkering, he managed to configure it correctly. "There you go. Should be working now." Tvani expressed her gratitude, then hesitated as if weighing her next words. "John, can we talk for a moment? There's something else on my mind." "Of course," John said, sensing the shift in her tone. They sat down on the soft, plush couch in her living room. Tvani took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since our last outing. About home, about feeling disconnected. I realized I don't just miss my planet. I miss having someone who understands me." John listened intently, nodding for her to continue. "And I feel you might be someone who can understand," Tvani added, her gaze meeting his. "It's rare to find that in someone so different, so far from home." John felt a surge of warmth. "I feel the same, Tvani. It's strange, isn't it? How two people from such different worlds can find common ground." "Yes, it is," Tvani agreed, a soft smile playing on her lips. The air between them charged with a palpable tension of unspoken words and feelings. Slowly, almost hesitantly, John reached out his hand, covering Tvani's. It was an innocent touch, meant to comfort, but the electricity it sparked was undeniable. Tvani's breath hitched slightly at the contact. "John, Sorry, I shouldn't have." John began to pull away, but Tvani tightened her grip, stopping him. "No, don't. I'm glad you did," she whispered. Her hand felt cool and smooth, a stark contrast to his, and yet it fit perfectly. For a moment, they simply sat there, connected by touch, each absorbing the significance of this interaction. Then, almost naturally, they leaned towards each other, their faces inches apart. John could feel Tvani's breath on his lips before their mouths met in a tentative kiss. It was a gentle exploration, soft and questioning at first, but as Tvani responded, it deepened, fueled by weeks of growing affection and suppressed desire. They broke apart, breathless, their foreheads resting against each other. "This feels right," John murmured, surprised at his own boldness. "It does," Tvani agreed, her voice a mix of wonder and certainty. "But we should be careful, John. We work together, and—" "I know," John interjected, understanding the implications. "Whatever this is, or could be, we need to handle it wisely. I don't want to cause any complications for you at work." Tvani nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of emotions. "Let's take it one step at a time." "Yes, one step at a time," John repeated, feeling a sense of commitment settling in his heart. As John left Tvania's apartment that evening, he felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Whatever the future held for them, it was uncharted territory, but he was ready to explore it alongside her. After their tentative kiss at Tvania's apartment, both John and Tvani were acutely aware of the new dynamics at play. They proceeded with a mixture of excitement and caution, knowing the need for discretion in the office. However, the emotional undercurrent that had begun to flow between them was palpable, and neither could ignore the deepening bond. One unseasonably warm evening, after a few weeks of managing their professional relationship and private emotions, Tvani invited John to join her for a walk through Zelfer's famous luminescent gardens, a sprawling park known for its glowing flora and tranquil ambience. As they strolled along the softly lit paths, the atmosphere of the garden seemed to reflect the mood of quiet introspection and budding romance between them. "It's beautiful here," John remarked, gazing at the shimmering leaves that illuminated the pathway. "Feels like walking through a dream." Tvani smiled, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the bioluminescent plants. "It's one of my favorite places. It reminds me that beauty is constant, even when life feels chaotic." They found a secluded bench near a gently bubbling water feature, the air filled with the sweet scent of nocturnal flowers. Sitting down, they let the serene sounds of the garden envelop them. "I've been thinking a lot about us," Tvani began, her voice soft but clear in the quiet of the night. "About how unexpected this all was." John turned to look at her, his heart beating a little faster. "Me too. It's not every day you find someone who changes the way you see the world, especially not someone from another world." Tvani chuckled. Then her expression sobered. "But I worry about what it means for us at work. We need to be careful." "John, I know," John agreed. "We'll be careful. We can keep this between us. Manage the boundaries. I don't want to jeopardize our jobs or make you uncomfortable." Tvani nodded, reaching out to take his hand. "I'm glad you understand. I don't want to stop seeing you, John. What I feel with you, it's worth exploring." Encouraged by her words, John squeezed her hand. "It is, and whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together." As they sat hand in hand, the tension of their earlier conversations began to ease, replaced by a comforting silence. It was John who broke it, leaning in close to whisper, "Tvani, can I kiss you?" Tvani's answer was to close the distance between them, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that felt like the sealing of a pact. This time, there was no hesitation, only a deep affirmation of their mutual feelings. The kiss deepened, driven by weeks of restrained emotions, now blossoming like the flowers around them. They parted slightly, breathless, their foreheads resting against one another. "This is right," John murmured, his doubts dissolving in the warmth of Tvani's nearness. "It is," Tvani confirmed softly, her eyes shining with emotion in the glow of the garden. "And as long as we're honest with each other, we can navigate the rest." The rest of the evening passed in a blend of conversations and comfortable silences, each moment deepening their connection. When it was time to leave, they walked back through the garden hand in hand, the glowing plants casting a surreal light on their path. As John dropped Tvani off at her apartment, they agreed to meet again soon, each encounter an opportunity to strengthen the bond that had grown between them. Despite the challenges they knew they would face, the promise of what lay ahead filled them with a quiet hope and determination. Stepping back into the cool night air, John felt a profound sense of peace. With Tvani, he had found not just love, but a partner in the truest sense of the word. As he made his way home, the glowing trails of the garden seemed to mirror the lightness in his heart, a beacon guiding him forward. A month had passed since John and Tvani's kiss in the luminescent gardens, and their relationship had quietly deepened, fueled by stolen moments and shared secrets. Despite the need for discretion at work, their bond grew stronger, filling their time together with warmth and laughter. One Friday evening, as Zelfer's twin moons climbed high into the night sky, Tvani invited John to her apartment for dinner. The evening was relaxed, with Tvani preparing a meal that blended earthly flavors with those of her homeworld. As John helped set the table, he watched Tvani move around her kitchen with ease. "You know, I think I could get used to this," he joked, referring to the delicious aromas wafting through the room. Tvani laughed, handing him a plate of steaming food. "Don't get too comfortable. I expect you to cook next time." "I accept that challenge," John replied with a grin. "But you'll have to teach me one of your planet's recipes." "It's a deal," Tvani agreed, her eyes twinkling. Dinner was a lively affair, with both sharing tales of their childhoods and dreams. As the night progressed, the conversation turned more intimate, discussing their hopes for the future, both individually and together. After they had cleared the dishes, Tvani led John to the balcony, where they could enjoy the cool night air. They sat close together, a blanket draped over their shoulders. "John," Tvani began, her voice soft, "when I'm with you, it feels like all the noise of the universe just fades away. It's just us, and it's perfect." John turned to look at her, his heart full. "I feel the same, Tvani. There's no one else I'd rather be with." Encouraged by his words, Tvani leaned in, capturing his lips in a tender kiss that soon grew passionate. As they pulled away, breathless, John whispered, "Stay with me tonight?" Tvani nodded, her face flushed with emotion. "Yes, I want that." Hand in hand, they moved back inside, where the gentle lighting and soft music created a serene atmosphere. Their kisses became more fervent as they made their way to the bedroom, each touch and glance deepening their connection. In the privacy of the bedroom, their earlier restraint melted away, replaced by a mutual desire to explore and cherish. As they undressed, there was a sense of discovery in every gesture, every look. John marveled at the beauty of Tvani's iridescent skin under the soft bedroom light, while she explored the contours of his human form with equal wonder. Their initial physical connection evolved into something profound, a celebration of their differences and a testament to their deep emotional bond. The world outside faded completely as they surrendered to their feelings, each touch and kiss a statement of their love and commitment. The pleasure they gave one another was a discovery of new landscapes, both physical and emotional. Later, lying together in the quiet aftermath, their fingers intertwined, John felt a peace he had never known. Tvani rested her head on his chest, her breath even and content. "This is right," John murmured, more certain than ever. "Yes," Tvani replied, her voice muffled against his skin. "It's exactly where we're meant to be." As they drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, the challenges ahead seemed manageable. Together, they had found not just love but a sanctuary, a place where they could be their true selves unguarded and unafraid. The night deepened around them, but inside Tvani's apartment, there was only warmth and the gentle rhythm of two hearts beating as one. The following weeks brought a new rhythm to John and Tvani's lives. Their secret relationship not only survived the pressures of the workplace, but thrived, infusing both with a happiness that was hard to conceal. However, they both knew they couldn't keep their relationship hidden forever. One morning, as the twin suns of Zelpha rose, casting a golden glow over the city, John and Tvani decided it was time to be open about their relationship with their team. They agreed to address it during the next team meeting, hoping for understanding and acceptance. Later that day, the entire team gathered in the main conference room, the air buzzing with routine pre-meeting chatter. Tvani stood at the head of the table, her posture calm but authoritative, while John took a seat amongst the rest of the team. "Thank you all for coming," Tvani began, her voice steady. "Before we dive into our agenda, John and I have something personal to share." Murmurs of curiosity rippled through the room as all eyes turned towards John, who stood to join Tvani. "We've started seeing each other outside of work," John said, his voice clear and confident. "We wanted to be upfront about it to avoid any potential concerns about transparency or fairness." There was a brief silence as the team processed the news, then Kriv, the logistics analyst, broke the ice with a broad grin. "Well, it's about time. I wondered how long you'd keep it a secret." Laughter eased the tension, and several colleagues nodded in agreement, their expressions more amused than surprised. "Yes, We've been careful to keep our personal life separate from our professional responsibilities, Tvani added. We appreciate your understanding and support. Speaking for myself, I've never seen you so happy, Tvani, Lena commented from across the table, a warm smile on her face. And John, you've been a great addition to the team. I think I speak for all of us when I say we just want you both to be happy. The team's response was overwhelmingly positive, with many expressing their support and sharing light-hearted jokes. The atmosphere was one of camaraderie and genuine affection. As the meeting continued with its usual agenda, John and Tvani felt a weight lift from their shoulders. The fear of judgment had vanished, replaced by an affirming sense of acceptance. After the meeting, as they walked back to their office together, Tvani squeezed John's hand. That went better than I expected, she admitted with a relieved laugh. It did, John agreed, smiling down at her. It feels like we've started a new chapter, doesn't it? It does? A good one, Tvani replied. No more hiding, just us, moving forward together. As the workday ended, they decided to celebrate by revisiting the luminescent gardens. Walking hand in hand through the glowing foliage, they reflected on their journey together. Do you remember our first walk here? John asked, stopping to look at a cluster of particularly bright flowers. I do, Tvani responded. I was so nervous. I had no idea how things would turn out. Now, here we are, John echoed, pulling her close for a kiss amidst the radiant blooms. The garden around them shimmered with light and life, mirroring the joy and love they shared. As they continued their walk, the future seemed bright and full of promise. With each step, they reaffirmed their commitment to each other, professionally, personally, and profoundly. In the world of Zelfur, among stars and moons and luminous plants, John and Tvani had found their place together, a new beginning in a galaxy of endless possibilities.